rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Wow, that is a little bit loud. Hopefully I don't overblow it. Anyway, hi, all Whiskey Warriors, P1s, and of course, any guests that we may have in the all of the socials everywhere. I forgot to put my requisite hello Whiskey Warriors in the chats here. Let me go ahead and do that real quick, because that also serves as a check that all of my chats are connected to my system so that I can see everything, whether it's on YouTube, X, Facebook, or Rumble. And it also allows me to like put them up here, you know, when it comes up. So there we go. There's my requisite hello Whiskey Warriors in all the chats. Okay. So some things we've been seeing some stuff within the Democrat Party. That is, that's, well, for us on the conservative side, we are relishing in it. I kind of told you a little bit, our last episode was in regards to, the Democrat antics. But here we're starting to see some cracks and fissures and things in what would usually be, because, I've said this before on the program, that we usually have a Borg-like mentality. And by Borg, I mean the Star Trek Borg characters, Borg-like mentality coming out of the Democrats, where they all seem to be in lockstep with each other. And so now that Donald Trump has taken the reins again in the White House, and the Republicans have taken the reins in both houses of Congress, they are starting to, let's say, show some cracks in their personas and the fissures. You're starting to see some questioning, some issues that are showing up, things of that nature. And so what we're seeing is unlike the Democrat Party of multiple years, especially the Obama years, where it was, again, it was all tied together. Everybody was together. They were all in lockstep in the whole BLM and all of that other stuff. They were all what appeared to be all lockstep. And now we're starting to see some cracks. We're starting to see some challenges with the Democrats. And I think a lot of it has to deal with the fact that they don't have any clear leader, that they don't have any clear, concise messaging anymore. It's like this last election cycle sort of made them go, what? And they have no idea where to head off or what to do. And so anyway, I've got a bunch of articles that I'm going to kind of try and tie together here tonight to kind of discuss how it's possible. The signs are showing that we could be looking at long-term trouble for the Democrat Party. We could be looking at a serious long-term trouble for them unless they can figure out how to get their feet, or the other alternative, which nobody wants in the conservative movement, which is that the Trump administration, and especially with regards to the economy, that the economy doesn't go better, that the economy takes a dive. Now, that's irrelevant of the conversation for tonight, so we're just going to set that aside for the moment. But what we are going to talk about is signs that the Democrat Party is their foundation is cracked. It's almost like, a big bomb went off in their building, and now they're not even sure that the building is safe. But anyway, we'll get to that in just a moment. But first, let's go ahead and get things kicked off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. T of Texas is up for the recitation of the pledge. So if you are of mind, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one, place your hand over your heart, and follow along with Ms. T as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and I thank you, Ms. T, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, kind of out of breath, played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself performing the pledge in your style, and then taking that audio or video file or whatever kind of file, attaching it to an email, and sending it off to fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online, and I will get you into the rotation for the program. All right, let's go ahead and hit tonight's headline sponsor, which is... I'm wearing one of their fantastic shirts right now. Oh, yeah. I'm wearing one of their fantastic shirts right now. This is the men's cotton polo United States flag-colored, flag-themed shirt from theflagshirt.com. And right now they are running their Patriotic Heroes sale, where you can get up to 60% off select patriotic styles if you shop today. Now, head on over to theflagshirt.com and check out all of their styles for men, women, kids. They've got made in the USA ones. They've got accessories that are red, white, and blue. And if you order $75 or more of their product, even with the 60% off, they will give you free shipping. But I understand not everybody goes and wants to, order $75 or more of gear at once. Some people can, some people can't. It's not a big deal, because I'm going to help you out, though. And what I am going to do for you is, if you head off to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, that's flagshirt.americanperspective.online, you will be presented with a code. Copy that code, paste it in the promo box at the checkout at theflagshirt.com, and you will get $5 off your order. So go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online and be presented with that promo code. Take that promo code, copy and paste it into the promo code box at theflagshirt.com at checkout, and you'll get $5 off at your order. Go to theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized like me. All right. So, first things first, I just want to tell you that the Dems are frazzled. They really are. And you can tell because of the fact that there is unrest within the ranks. And one of the things that demonstrates unrest is when you have individuals, long-term individuals, like the Bernie Sanders, like the Chuck Schumers, like the Nancy Pelosi's. Those folks are flustered, especially when being asked about the future of the Democrat Party and the future of where certain Democrats are going to go. These people get freaked out at times. One of them in particular is, and I don't know if anybody knows, but there's rumors running around that AOC, that's right, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is rumored to want to make a run for Chuck Schumer's Senate seat in New York. Well, Bernie Sanders, who's been touring with AOC, by the way, on the Fight Oligarchy tour, that's what I'm going to call it, Okay. Fight Oligarchy Tour. And she and he have been going around and they've been gathering people together. And so Bernie Sanders showed up on a show. Let's see, it was an ABC's This Week that aired yesterday. And he got a little flustered with regards to the possibility of his running mate. Whoops. Sorry about that. The possibility of his running mate, or not running mate, but his tour mate, being in potentially making a run for the Senate. And here's what happened during that interview.
Back when I first came to the Congress and the House, I helped form the Progressive Caucus. We had 5 people in it at that time. Now they got close to 100. So you got a whole lot of good people. Alexandra is extraordinary. I am so impressed by her work in Congress and she inspires young people all over the country.
Would you like to see her join in the Senate?
Right now, we have, as I said, just a whole lot of people in the Congress. Okay, Jonathan, thanks.
Wait, I got one more. This is important.
No, I asked you.
Okay.
You want to do nonsense, do nonsense.
No.
I don't want to talk about inside the Beltway stuff. I got 32,000 people.
I was just asking you about AOC because she was out there with you.
Well, fine, but I don't want to talk about this. What was the last question?
I was just going to ask you one more question about you. I mean, that's all. I was literally your last.
What is your question?
Well, I mean, it's easier to. I mean, I want to ask you about your future. This is the biggest crowd. You said you ran for president twice. This is the biggest crowd you've ever seen. Are we going to see you run again, or what's your future?
No, right now, I am very proud that the people of the state of Vermont sent me back to the Senate with 63% of the vote. Right now, I'm Vermont senator. That's what I do, and I'm very happy to do it. I am 83 years of age, and I'm tired.
All right, Arthur.
Okay. So, as you saw, he got a little flustered. He got a little upset when they were asking about, or when he was being asked about whether or not AOC was going to run for the Senate. Because, as he said, I don't want to talk about inside the Beltway stuff. Well, but that's kind of important. He sort of, the American people want to know what the future of the Democrat Party actually is. And you're not doing us any favors here, Bernie. He got flustered, got pissed, and was about ready to walk off. For those of you who are on the audio portion of the program, he actually got up and was about ready to leave. Well, that was the whole point. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so yeah, Bernie got, he got upset. And the reason why, honestly, is because of the fact that he is seriously a symptom of a broken up Democrat Party. And he's, well, obviously, I mean, he's 83. I'd be really surprised if he was actually going to jump on the presidential bandwagon again. Although you never know. I mean, he might. But considering the fact that, right now, Donald Trump is not the oldest president with Joe Biden, but he definitely, is up there. I think that there's a lot of people, even within the Democrat Party and the Republican Party, are both looking toward, hey, you know what? It's about time that we look for some younger blood. Anyway, outside of all of that, though, the Democrat Party itself is literally in ruins, or, well, that's what a lot of people are assuming, including a long-time Clinton pollster. His name is Mark Penn. And he was on Fox News Hannity. Penn started talking about the recent polling data that the CNN SSRS polls were showing about their favorability, meaning the Democrat Party's favorability rating, plummeting. The polling itself was conducted from March 6th to the 9th. And, let's just go ahead and let me go ahead and show you what he said. as soon as I can get there.
Beautiful night. Mark, I got to start with you. You follow this as close as anybody. To say the Democratic Party is in ruins, it doesn't get much stronger than that, Mark.
Well, I've never seen anything like this in over 40 years of polling. The Democratic Party ratings have collapsed from like a 47% favorable down to 29, 27 in some of these polls. And that's an incredible loss of moderate working class voters. Those kinds of voters that the Democratic Party needs to win elections, and it's being shrunk to a base of left-wing advocates like Bernie Sanders and AOC who are touring the country carrying the Democratic banner. That's not helping.
Yeah, well, it's helping one party.
Yeah. So apparently, I mean, even long-term folks are like looking at this and they're going, what the heck is going on here? Like, this is something that not everybody has ever seen before. And to be honest with you, even some of the far left pundits that are out there are basically, they're all kind of now trying to grasp at whatever they possibly can to figure out, how do we move forward from this? Because let's face it, even though they sit there and talk about how, oh, the party is not broken up, oh, it wasn't a mandate, you know, he only won by a small percentage, so on and so forth, all of that. And the fact that by them saying it doesn't really fluster anybody, because everybody's like, yeah, right. He may only have won by a few percentage points, but if you look at 89% of the counties that were out there voted for him and moved to the right, according to all polling data, you know? So, yeah, it's, they are all kind of scratching at what's next. Well, Morning Joe had a couple of people on. One of them is Ellie Mistel. Now, for those of you that don't know who Ellie Mistel is, he is a far left correspondent who just freaks out over a lot of different stuff. And yeah, he basically was saying that, well, what we need to do is we need to get rid of voting eligibility requirements. Yeah. Voter registration itself has some undertones. Anyway, well, let's just listen to what he's saying here.
Okay, so like what?
Well, we could eliminate all voter registration laws. See, when Democrats get in charge, we try to protect voting rights. We don't make voting easier. Now, I'm all for voter eligibility requirements. We might disagree about what those requirements should be, but, you know, I'm going to say that, like, there should be an age limit to vote. I might say 16, you might say 18, but I'm not going to say 8. Right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to agree that there should be voter eligibility requirements. But once you're eligible, why do you have to pre-register? Why is that even a thing? It wasn't a thing in this country at the founding. We didn't have voter pre-registration in 1787. We didn't have voter pre-registration in 1821. We only started having voter registration, generally speaking, after the Civil War. Why do you think that is? It's because a bunch of freed African slaves were migrating up north, and all of a sudden New York was like, we need some registration up in here, right? A bunch of immigrants from Europe, mainly Ireland and Italy, were coming to New York. People were like, oh, we need some registration in here. If you're eligible to vote, you should be automatically registered to vote, and that is how they do it everywhere else but us. Everywhere else but us either has automatic registration or some other form of forced registration for everybody, so that you don't have this disconnect between eligible voters and registered voters. That's the first law in the book that we could change. And it's to see how that's different than just saying we have to protect voting rights. No. We don't have to protect voting rights. We have to expand voting rights so that the 90 million people that sat on the couch and sat out this last election between democracy and fascism, so that maybe they have a little bit of an easier time to get up off the couch and come participate in the democracy.
Okay, so yeah, he's not entirely wrong. I mean, we really didn't have voter registration laws in place until he did say the Civil War, which was somewhat true, and somewhat true about, you know, the whole idea. I mean, North versus South. Let's just kind of go through the whole slavery thing. But he also glossed over and never mentioned the fact that voting used to be restricted in our country from the beginning to landowners. See, not everybody could vote, okay? Not everybody had an equal vote. It was only the landowners at one point who could actually vote. And then as time moved on, we expanded that. We went from landowners to now, you know, again, to all taxpayers. And not to mention the fact that it was during the times of the Civil War, World War I, and World War II, World War I in particular, where voting registrations and laws were starting to come into play because of the infiltration and influx of people who were not set up to be allowed to vote. I mean, even like women weren't allowed to vote at one point. So this whole concept, or this whole idea of, you know, axing, completely getting rid of voting registration laws, that's ridiculous. And I'll explain a little bit why, because of the fact that there was a Michigan, I think it was Michigan. Yeah, Michigan. I didn't put this in the show notes, but I was considering using it tonight. Michigan just narrowly was, well, I won't say narrowly, but just turned down a law to give illegals driver's licenses. See, this is part of the reason why. This is part of the reason why I say forget the driver's licenses, throw the driver's license thing out. If you're an American citizen, okay, if you're an American citizen, you should be required to show proof of citizenship when you go to vote in a federal election. State and local, that's something totally different. But if you're going to vote in a federal election, you should have nothing less than a federally approved and mandated ID that verifies birth. The only one that we have right now is the passport, which is part of the reason why I'm sitting here saying, well, okay, passport is it. Okay. Now, again, all of this, you got to understand, he's going off on these voter registration laws and so on and so forth. The reason being is because he wants more illegals, more people who normally wouldn't be eligible to vote, to be able to slip in and get and fall in between the cracks. Now, the article that I pulled that clip from, was also talking about how Colorado and Washington are the only two states where mail-in balloting is mandated. Okay. So yeah, it just, he is a bit lost with this. And the thing is that it also comes into play too, that as the population itself expanded, U.S. states started adopting voter registration requirements between the 1870s, which is right after the Civil War, and World War I, due to the increasing need to prevent fraud, confusion, and conflicts. And this coming from the Institute for Rapid Government is where that particular fact came from. So, Mistel is also appearing to blame voter registration laws for the recent loss of Harris Walls in 2024. Anyway. And he's claiming that millions of eligible voters did not show up because they were not registered. I hate to tell you this, but I think we had one of the largest turnouts in 2024 than we have. Anyway, so yeah, sure. All right. Well, there was a New York Times writer who basically wrote down his name. The New York Times writer is Ezra Klein, and he came up with what his view is in terms of why Democrats are getting destroyed, because of the fact, in his mind, data is starting to show that Generation Z is primarily responsible for the swing and is, quote, the most conservative generation in decades. Now, one of the things that the Democrat Party has counted on in terms of their ability to win elections has been basically three demographic sections of society. The first is the youth vote. And I chalk that one up, me personally, I chalk that one up to the fact that the youth vote hasn't grown a brain yet. Okay. Those are the people who are usually from 18 till about 24, 25, maybe 27 in there, because they haven't grown a brain yet. Okay. Now, and the reason why I say that is because, of course, the frontal lobes don't fully develop until around an average age of 25. I've brought that up on this program multiple times. The other couple of demographics that Democrats usually count on that didn't show up this past year, is the minority vote, which, as we know, Donald Trump made historic gains in both the black vote and the Hispanic vote within, the entire country. So they came out. Now, granted, the percentages didn't seem like much when you look at it from a percentage standpoint, but considering the fact that the black vote, for an example, 90 plus percent usually votes for Democrats, and this time they only got to maybe 75 to 80%, maybe 85%, that's a huge difference. And especially when you're looking at a poll from the Democrat Party into the Republican Party. All right. So all of that is just, huge numbers. But the one category that seems to be staying quite true to the Democrat Party is what they call the awfuls. And I'm not kidding you. This is an acronym that they use. It's called the awfuls. That is affluent white female liberals. Okay. I showed you that chart the other day where they are holding the Democrat Party. They literally are holding up the Democrat Party as of right now. That's the affluent white female liberals. All right. Now, in all of this, though, this New York Times reporter is basically saying that the other two demographic groups, the minorities and the young, the grip is slipping. And according to data that he put together, is that their grip, meaning the Democrats' grip, is slipping, and it's slipping very fast. Okay. So yeah, the thing about it is they're looking at, this gentleman's looking at it, and he's basically saying, okay, immigrants, meaning the minority vote, immigrants are swinging far more than the median of the electorate. And the reason being is because, according to him, he says, well, it's really hard to know exactly what happened. Working class immigrants don't answer a ton of surveys, but our best guess is that they swung close to 23 percentage points against the Democrat Party. The crazy thing is, he says, if you believe this, and there's some uncertainty, but I think some version of this is probably true, then something like half of the net votes that Trump received came from immigrants. He's like, this wasn't efficient for him, and it was one of the main reasons for the bias of the Electoral College decreased by so much in this cycle. He said, in the battleground states, Trump's vote share swung by maybe half a percentage point or 1 percentage point, but that was enough for him to win. If you look at the 4 biggest states where the immigrants are concentrated, such as New York, California, and Texas, okay, Trump did extremely well. It wasn't very efficient for him, but in terms of people changing their mind, it was a massive percentage of the story. So, yeah. Now, the other thing was they did a look at Harris's support by age, year, race, and gender. And among 18-year-olds, they found that women of color were the only of those 4. Okay, meaning, yeah. So of the 4 that Trump won, that Harris won, Trump narrowly won by non-white men. Okay. And he basically says, I find this part of the chart shocking. I sometimes talk about narrative violations, and if we knew anything about Donald Trump 8 years ago, it was that young people didn't like him. And Republicans had maybe been throwing away young people for generations in order to run up their margins among seniors. But if you look at this chart, which I can't show you the chart because it's really, really small and it doesn't come out very well. If you look at the chart, it appears 75-year-old white men supported Kamala Harris at a significantly higher rate than 20-year-old white men. Yeah. So then they continued on and say it is mildly surprising that young white women swung so far to the right, but I suspect the alphabet ideology plays a role. That young men have swung right is the opposite of surprising. They are the most demonized group by lefties in America. So maybe the left ideology really didn't help them at all when it came into this. Now, keep in mind, all of this is being spoken by a New York Times press person. New York Times. That's about as left as you can get. Okay? All right. Let's see here. Well, before I move on and start showing or start telling you about some more signs that there is potential long-term troubles with the Democrats, let me go ahead and get to this sponsor, which is 1775 Coffee. Now, I like coffee. I drink it every day. I have this huge cup that my kids gave me that's basically equal to about 2 cups of regular coffee. So it's like a 16-ounce cup. Okay. It says, world's best dad or something along those lines. Okay. I can't remember the actual saying on it, but believe me, I see it every day. I promise you, I see it every day. But one thing about my coffee is that because I start my mornings here on the West Coast at about 5:30 in the morning, 5:30 a.m. Okay, because I work off of more central time, central East Coast time for my regular job. I found that strong coffee is really important. Now, weak coffee is for the weak. And at Rumble, weak has never been a part of the mission. That is true. No fillers, no fraud, and no settling for mediocrity, just like 1775 Coffee. It's single origin, small farm, hand-picked, specialty-grade coffee that stands for quality, free speech, and calling out bullshit when it matters. Forget stale, mass-produced beans roasted just enough to hide the flaws. Dark roast that hits like a Trump tariff. Medium roast that keeps it bold without the bitterness. And don't forget the Vitality Mushroom Blend, which is real energy and lasting focus. No synthetic garbage. For K-Cup pods, whole bean, or fresh ground coffee, head off to 1775 Coffee. That's 1775coffee.com and use promo code STUDIO. That's all capitals, STUDIO, for 15% off. And start your morning with coffee that actually stands for something. Once again, that's 1775coffee.com and use Promo code STUDIO for 15% off your order. Go to 1775coffee, 1775coffee.com, and use promo code STUDIO to get 15% off your order and start your morning with coffee that actually stands for something. Like Americans, we stand for something all the time. All right. So moving on. So there was a poll that came out, and this is actually kind of fascinating, to be honest with you. Bam, if you're in the chat, you're going to be interested about this. So apparently this poll, and now keep in mind, I'm saying, of course, that, you know, I'll believe it when I see it. All right. But there was a poll that was released by KABC, which I'm guessing is a local television station over in California. And next year, of course, the state's going to elect a new governor. But right now, about half of the residents say that they're open to voting Republican based on this polling data. Wait, what? So, new polling released on Thursday shows that voters across California are feeling what is being called the Trump effect, rejecting years of Democrat policies. Yeah, well, it might have something to do with the fact that, you know, the Democrats kind of screwed up the whole LA wildfire situation. Let's just say. But anyway, so nearly half of likely California voters say that they would consider voting for a Republican governor in 2026. Now, keep in mind that Republican Party voter registration in California is just 25%. Now, also keep in mind, too, that California used to be Republican. It used to be Republican a long time ago. Anyway, this polling was conducted in California over March 6th to 9th of likely 2026, November 2026 voters by David Wolfson, who is a national pollster and faculty lecturer at Columbia University's Political Analytics graduate program, and was sponsored by the media firm Madison McQueen. Now, here's some other findings that came out from that poll. 83% of voters said gas prices are way too high in California. 73% support fully funding anti-crime Proposition 36, which state Democrat leaders have refused to do. 72% feel homelessness is still a big problem after years of Democrat control in Sacramento. Okay. 71% believe the Democrats in charge have not addressed the state's high cost of living. Well, part of that is taxes. Morons. Anyway, 69% believe that Democrats in Sacramento have not done enough to bring down energy and utility costs. Okay. 62% support a full independent investigation of the recent Los Angeles wildfires. And by the way, only 24% of the Californians polled, and this is part of the reason why Democrats are fading. This is part of it. Only 24% of Californians think that males should compete in female sports. See, that's that 80-20 issue. Males competing in female sports. Well, keep in mind, we got to take polling with a grain of salt. Probably not going to be all that great, but that is a positive sign for conservatism, to be honest with you. So there you go. All right. Well, it's not just polling that seems to be a big thing. Now, remember what I've told you about some of these people. For an example, Joe Rogan and the Joe Rogan Experience podcast was actually called a right-wing podcast by Media Matters. Joe Rogan had a laugh about that on his show. He was like, I am not. He doesn't identify as either Democrat or Republican. He's more of, I guess you could say, a left-leaning libertarian, maybe. But anyway, the point being here is that the Democrat Party is starting to lose some of their normally staunch supporters. One of them in particular is Bill Maher. Now, Bill Maher is more libertarian than anything else, and I'm going to tell you, you cannot assume that he is conservative, but this is exactly what's been happening over the course of the last couple of years. Things got so far left in the Democrat Party that now people who would normally be left of center are now right of center. And that's exactly what Elon Musk has been talking about. Well, let's take a listen to what Bill Maher had to say on his show with regards to all of this.
California is projected to lose 3 seats, New York 2, also going to lose a seat, Minnesota, Oregon, Rhode Island, Illinois, all blue states. Who's getting these? Texas, Florida, Idaho, and Utah. I mean, this looks like game over, you know, and the reason why people are voting with their feet is a lot of what your book is about.
Yeah,
taxes and regulation. I certainly been screaming about it forever. I did 3 years with a sign here that said, how long is it going to take me to get my solar hooked up? 3 years. Talking about it on television in this state. You couldn't do it. This state has almost 400,000 regulations. I just put in a new roof because the fire, I thought, oh, let's get a roof that's not going to burn up. 2 inspections. Why are you inspecting my roof? It's my fucking roof. If it falls on me, that's my problem. And we're taxed more than any other state. People are leaving these kind of states for places where they're not, they feel the heavy breath of government on them. It's not that hard for Democrats to understand this, but they seem to be incapable of doing anything about it.
So we poll this. They're leaving on cost of living. That's all part of it. They're leaving because they can't afford homes. And it's a huge, not just political problem, those numbers you just gave. After 2030, if that holds, a Democrat could win every state Kamala Harris won, win Michigan, win Pennsylvania, and I'm just blanking on the third blue wall state, win Michigan, win Pennsylvania, and win Wisconsin, and lose the presidential election, right? The blue wall would no longer be enough for them to win. And you have to take that.
You mean they could win those 3 states and still lose
the presidential? That's how bad it is, right?
Wow.
And that's because they are driving people out, working class families out of the states that they govern because the cost of living is too high. And the cost of living is too high in part for regulatory reasons, in part for taxes. But the big problem is they just don't have enough of the things people need. Not enough homes, not enough energy, not a government capable of delivering. And they've been treating that as not a real problem. You were talking about your solar sign. California high-speed rail, it's a huge disaster, but nobody's ever done anything about it. If you tried to build it again, it would go the exact same way.
High-speed rail?
Yeah, California's high-speed rail.
I think we first passed it in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just voted about something about it again. It's projected. Just give up. Just to...
Okay, I'm going to stop that there. It goes on for like another couple of minutes, but, everything that they were discussing is correct. See, what the Democrats seem to have lost touch with is the fact that you can't tax people to the point where they no longer are getting the return on their taxes. You can't sit here and over-regulate, which is exactly what the Democrat Party so far has been wanting to do. Okay? But again, these people, Bill Maher did start off talking about the number of electoral votes potentially targeted for being lost. And I need to bring that up because that is in particular what he's referencing here has to deal with the 2030 apportionment forecast. Now, there is a group called the American Redistricting Project, and they have put together a map that is essentially taking a look at population trends, because again, keep in mind, constitutionally speaking, the apportionment, which has to deal with things such as how much money the federal government gives back to the states as well as what their representatives look like, whether it's in the House of Representatives. We already know this, the Senate, everybody gets the same. It's 2 per state for the Senate. So it has to deal with their House seats that they are allocated, and that those House seats connect up with how many electoral votes they actually get. Okay. Well, this is the thing, is that they're starting to forecast based off of population estimates. I mean, we're in 2025 right now. Okay. The next 5 years, or the next 4 years, roughly, okay, is going to make a difference in what the 2030 census looks like. And that's where this apportionment forecast comes from. Let me go ahead and show you this, because of the fact that this gives you a good idea as to why the Democrat Party is actually starting to panic. Okay? They are starting to panic. And this is the reason why. If you take a look at this chart that I have, or the map that I have up here, they are anticipating that California, because of all of those people that Bill Maher was referencing, everybody leaving, taking off, California is potentially going to lose 4 seats. Oregon is possibly going to lose 1. Michigan is going to lose 1. Illinois potentially is going to lose 2. Pennsylvania might lose 1. New York looks like it's going to lose 3. Now, keep in mind, the ones that are the beneficiaries out of all of this, of course, is Texas potentially picking up 4. Florida potentially picking up 3. Looks like Kentucky and North Carolina and Georgia, Arizona, Utah, and Idaho all pick up 1 out of all this. And now those typically are red states. And we just saw Florida. Florida actually turned more red. It was a toss-up state for a while, but now it's turned more red. And so this is part of why the Democrat Party is in such disarray. They don't know what to do. They're potentially losing, and will be potentially losing, for what could be a very long time. Pendulum seems as though, first signs here seems as though things are starting to swing back the other direction. And we might actually have a possibility where we could be gaining America back. The America that we all know and love. Oh, did I say something wrong? Yeah, my geography might have been off. It might have been Tennessee, not Kentucky. I could have been wrong with that. That looks... Anyway. So there you go. And yeah, Bonnie says Florida is red except for the big cities. Well, so believe it or not, so is Washington, Oregon, and California. I mean, if you look at a map of the counties even in blue states, it's blue states are, even red for the vast majority of the land area, and it's only the cities that turn things into blue. And we've seen that on multiple occasions. I mean, but the point that I'm making on all of this, though, is that we could be looking at a pendulum shift. It's been going that far out. It's been going along, a far left way, and now it looks like it might be swinging back the other direction. Okay. Well, there's also potentially losing not just apportionment, not just electoral college votes, but also, and not just demographics, But we also could be looking at potential Senate and House seats. So here in the Epoch Times, 3 battleground Senate Democrats decided to retire. And what does this mean for 2026? Well, these retirements potentially create openings for Republicans that may not have been there before. Now, here's the thing. Most of the time when you see a Democrat retire, it's not a Democrat like Bernie Sanders, okay? Bernie Sanders, as I started off this episode with, Bernie Sanders is 83. He's got no intention of going anywhere because as far as he's concerned, all of Vermont is going to vote for his butt to go back to the Senate. And he'll do that up until the point that he unfortunately probably croaks and falls over sitting in his Senate seat. Okay? That's part of the reason why he's a little flustered when people are talking about new blood like AOC getting in the Senate. But anyway, I digress. That's just my assumption, not anything he said. But generally speaking, you don't see these people because they've been able to create a situation where they live off the government dole. And let's face it, I mean, if this job weren't easy, the mud monsters would not want it. So there obviously is a benefit to whatever these mud monsters, and by that I mean politicians, these mud monsters are trying to get involved in here. Well, these 3 Democrats that are in long-term Democrat incumbents have announced that their current term is going to be their last. So this is Senators Janine Shaheen in New Hampshire, Gary Peters in Michigan, and Tina Smith in Minnesota have all announced their retirement. Now, each particular seat, all 3 of those seats, lies in states that were decided by less than 5 points in 2024, meaning that they could be a toss-up. Now, here's the thing. And Matt Johnson, who is a Republican strategist, he told the Epoch Times this, okay? The retirements are usually an indicator that these long-term senators are feeling as though they're not in it for the fight anymore. Or I should say, they're preparing for the fact that it's going to be a fight and they aren't interested. So in other words, they're sort of like Bernie Sanders. If Bernie Sanders had a real shot of losing his seat at 83, don't think that he would stay necessarily in the fight. He would likely look and go, you know what? I'm done. I mean, being at 83 years old, he's got to retire sometime or think of retirement. So, the point being is that if these, when these 3 retire, because they've already announced it, but when these 3 retire, that's 3 more Senate seats that are possibly up for grabs by the Republicans. We also have a similar condition in the House. There's 26 House Democrats who are on, according to the Daily Wire here, who are on the 2026 midterms target list. Okay? So these are on targets, these are in seats and districts where they potentially could be pickup opportunities for the Republicans in terms of moving things forward. So, and some of these, believe it or not, are in blue states. For an example, Josh Harder, Adam Gray, George Whitesides, Derek Tran, and Dave Min are all in California. Okay? You have Jared Goldman in Maine. You have Kristen McDonald-Rivet in Michigan. You have Don Davis in North Carolina, Chris Pappas in New Hampshire. You also have Nellie Poo in New Jersey. Gabe Vasquez in New Mexico. Dina Titus in Nevada. Susan Lee in Nevada. Stephen Hornsford in Nevada. You got Tom Suzy in New York, Laura Gillen in New York, Josh Riley in New York. I mean, these are places where typically, and believe it or not, brand new House Representative Eugene Vindman. Yes, that is correct. The same Vindman guy who was, with against Trump or whatever the first time around in Virginia is another one that they think they can pick up. And here in my own state, Marie Gluesenkamp Perez in Washington. So the Democrat Party and all of their stuff breaking free like this and breaking up like this is a positive. These are positive signs that we've got them broken on the run. Now, there is a 2 seats in particular that the GOP could possibly pick up in the Senate, other than those that I mentioned. And these 2 seats have to deal with Georgia in particular. Okay. So you have Senator Raphael Warnock. So he is up for re-election in 2028 in particular. And then you have, who's the other one? John Ossoff is the other one who is up for the 2026 race. So, yeah, there's, it's coming. It's coming. We've got some possibilities, and we need to push. We need to push to get things going, in order to hopefully pull off more victories in 2026, and then of course in 2028. But the cracks and the unity that we normally see with the Democrat Party, they're starting to show. It's starting to demonstrate problems within the Democrat Party, and especially when you're dealing with things like your own base, things like what your voters, being a part of your voters, being able to understand and empathize and be able to work with your voters. The Democrat Party doesn't seem to be doing any of that at this point. So we could be looking at a very entertaining next several election cycles, is what I'm trying to get at. But all of this is positive signs that the Democrat Party is not infallible. They are not perfect. They are not a behemoth that is very difficult for us to take down. We can do this. And the cracks are starting to show in the foundation. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. Once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel. Hit that green follow button when you find us, and get notified every time that I go live. Also, too, don't forget, before you take off, hit those likes and thumbs up buttons across all of my platforms, whether it is X, Facebook, YouTube, and, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.